Greetings, champions, and welcome once more to our forge. A persistent vulnerability exists within you, a crack in your armor that explains why you perpetually surrender your authority. It is the very reason why adversaries can still agitate you, why manipulators can so effortlessly bend your will, and why you are consistently drawn into their manufactured tempests. This fundamental flaw is your lingering overinvestment in matters beyond your control. You continue to permit sentiment to be your compass, allowing the emotional tides of others to determine the tranquility of your own shores. In this grand theater of existence, the individual who maintains an unwavering serenity while all around them descend into madness is the one who ultimately claims dominion over all. Contemplate this truth. The tranquil soul is regarded with a profound and unsettling awe, whereas the emotionally volatile person is merely a puppet awaiting a master. When bedlam is unleashed, when the masses succumb to fear, contention, and eventual collapse, the figure who stands in composed stillness invariably becomes the focal point. This is because stillness, in a world of frantic motion, is the purest expression of dominance. A wise thinker once articulated that the sagacious individual accomplishes with immediacy what the fool only achieves after exhausting all other options. The fool is defined by reaction. The wise are defined by observation. For continued insights into cultivating this psychological control, subscribe to Dark Psychology, Decoded to strengthen your understanding of emotional mastery. The master strategist permits everyone else to expose their hands first, letting their rage, their anxieties, and their deep-seated insecurities spill onto the table while they remain a bastion of impenetrability. Their calm is not a sign of placid acceptance. It is a calculated, strategic posture. Their quietude is not an indication of frailty. It is a finely honed instrument of power. You must come to understand that maintaining your composure is a potent form of psychological warfare. When you refuse to provide the emotional response that others expect, you deny them the gratifying sensation of control they so desperately seek. This refusal forces them to turn their scrutiny inward, to doubt their own influence, and to question the very foundation of their power. You can dismantle their confidence entirely without uttering a single syllable. The most vociferous person in any conflict is always the one who lays bare their emotional state, unwittingly handing their opponent the keys to their own undoing. In stark contrast, the serene individual, the one who does not recoil, does not feel the need to justify their position, and does not engage in the futile act of chasing, becomes a truly formidable presence. This world does not allocate its own rewards to the merely benevolent or kind-hearted. It reserves its greatest treasures for the composed. It venerates the one who does not shatter when circumstances take a turn for the worse. While countless people aspire to possess confidence, only a select few grasp the deeper truth that inner composure commands a level of respect and authority that superficial confidence could never hope to achieve. This is because confidence can be an elaborate performance, a mask skillfully worn to deceive the undiscerning. True, unshakable calmness, however, cannot be counterfeited. Within this discourse, you will acquire the knowledge to become cool-headed, not devoid of life, but masterfully in command of your inner state. You will learn to be tranquil, not as a display of weakness, but as a demonstration of profound, unreadable strength. You will discover how to cease your pursuit of external validation, how to cultivate genuine peace in the heart of the most violent hurricanes, how to transform your silence into an impenetrable shield, and how to command the deference of others without speaking a single word. Once you achieve absolute mastery over your own emotions, they can no longer be weaponized against you by anyone. It is at that precise moment that you evolve into something extraordinary, something exceedingly rare, an individual who is fundamentally impossible to break. The undisciplined soul perpetually waits for tranquility to be delivered to them, yearning for a peaceful harbor to magically appear. The truly powerful, however, manufacture their own sanctuary within themselves, even as the world around them is engulfed in flames. The eruption of chaos is not a summons to join the chorus of panic. It is, in fact, a stage meticulously constructed for those who possess the profound skill of standing motionless while others around them crumble into dust. When the world raises its voice to a deafening scream, you must learn to respond with a whisper. When the masses stampede in a frenzy, You must learn to move with the grace and deliberation of flowing water, slow, intentional, and utterly undisturbed. This is the discipline that sets you apart from the herd. After all, any person can maintain their composure when life is placid and the seas are calm. But it is only the most exceptional minds, the rarest of spirits, who can remain perfectly centered while standing in the eye of the storm. As a great strategist once posited, he who desires to be obeyed must first understand the art of command. Yet, you cannot hope to command any situation, any person, or any outcome if you have not first achieved absolute command over the territory of your own mind. Every circumstance you encounter is a battleground, a fierce contest between your primal impulses and your higher intelligence. Chaos is simply the universe's method for testing which of these two forces is your true sovereign. The vast majority of people break under this pressure because they mistakenly believe that peace is an external commodity, a quiet room, a safe haven, a temporary reprieve from their troubles. The Machiavellian intellect, however, knows that peace is an internal state, forged in the crucible of adversity and born in the very moments when everyone else loses their grip. It is not about fleeing the storm. It is about becoming the unshakable calm at its very center. When others engage in heated arguments, you must train yourself to simply observe. When they desperately clamor to be heard, you must conserve your precious energy. In doing so, your silence transforms into a mirror, starkly reflecting their own instability back at them, exposing the chaotic nature of their emotionally driven states. The very instant you cease to react to the noise of the world, that noise forfeits all of its power over you. It is imperative that you train your mind to feel the tremors of chaos without absorbing its destructive energy. The world will relentlessly hurl conflict, betrayal, confusion, and pain in your direction. It does this not with the intention of destroying you, but to see if you can maintain your center, to test the resilience of your inner fortitude. You must learn to breathe through the fire, to allow the searing heat of adversity to pass through you without allowing it to consume you from within. Once you fully internalize the profound realization that peace is not something you find, but something you painstakingly build, you will stop waiting for the world to calm down for your benefit. You, yourself, will become the calm. Always remember this fundamental principle. Chaos only has the power to destroy the individual who foolishly attempts to fight it head-on. The wise person does not engage chaos in direct combat. They observe it with detached patience until it inevitably devours itself. This is precisely why individuals who live in a perpetual state of panic are so remarkably easy to control. They readily expose their emotions, broadcast their thoughts, and surrender their peace to anyone who understands which buttons to push. A tranquil mind, however, is unpredictable, unreadable, and consequently unstoppable. Your stillness becomes your most intimidating and impenetrable armor. This is not indifference, it is mastery. When you can genuinely smile while completely surrounded by cacophony, you have ascended to a level of strength that no one can ever hope to imitate. Therefore, stop attempting to escape from difficult moments. Instead, confront them directly until fear itself grows weary and loses all interest in you. For peace is not about comfort, it is about control. And when you can hold peace securely within your chest while bedlam swirls around you, you have already secured the ultimate victory. Stillness is not a void. It is a reservoir of immense untapped force. Power is not found in emptiness, but in the potent energy that awaits its moment of release. The loud and boisterous speak endlessly in a desperate attempt to prove their own worth, but the truly strong remain quiet, safeguarding their strategic advantage. Authentic strength has no need to announce its presence. It moves with the invisibility of a shadow, meticulously observing everything, calculating every minute detail, and patiently awaiting the perfect opportune moment to act. When you come to understand the profound value of silence, you will cease to squander your energy on words that carry no weight or purpose. You will begin to recognize that every time you feel compelled to explain yourself, to argue your point, or to defend your actions, you are relinquishing a small but vital piece of your control. A keen observer of human nature once noted that one must be cunning enough to recognize traps and formidable enough to frighten away predators. Silence is the bridge that connects these two essential qualities. It is the discipline that teaches you when to wait with patience, when to speak with precision, and when to vanish from the scene completely. The modern world is saturated with individuals who are desperate to be heard, constantly broadcasting their plans, their thoughts, and their deepest insecurities, never realizing that power withers and dies the very moment it is needlessly exposed. Those who cultivate a practice of silence, however, understand that mystery is a profound source of strength. The less you reveal about yourself, the more others are forced to imagine. The more they imagine, the more they begin to fear, because the unknown terrifies the human mind far more than any explicit threat. An individual who says nothing of substance compels others to guess at their motives and intentions, and this constant guessing becomes a mental prison of their own construction. While they exhaust their mental and emotional energy trying to decode you, you remain perfectly in control, observing their futile efforts with detached amusement. This is the sublime art of psychological dominance, compelling others to reveal their entire hand while you keep yours concealed. Remaining an unreadable enigma, silence also serves as a rigorous training ground for discipline. When you learn to withhold your immediate visceral reactions, you cultivate a deep well of patience. Patience, in turn, is the ultimate weapon that shatters the will of those who act with reckless haste. Every single second that you remain perfectly still while others around you lose their composure, you are building an invisible but palpable aura of power. In the depths of your quietude, you can perceive things that others, in their noisy haste, will always miss. You begin to hear the subtle nuances in tone, the hidden intentions behind a question, and the faint whispers of weakness in a confident voice. You start to see beyond the superficiality of words and begin to comprehend the real motives that animate every smile, every compliment, and every inquiry. The majority of people talk simply to fill the uncomfortable void of silence. The masterful mind, however, uses that void as a reflective surface. In the stillness, you discover just how easily people expose their true selves when they feel the overwhelming need to fill the conversational space. You must let them talk. You must allow them to reveal their vulnerabilities. You simply listen, store the information, and wait to act when the time is precisely right. That is the nature of authentic strength, not the kind that craves recognition, but the kind that silently and inexorably dictates outcomes. The more silent you become, the more people will project their own fears and insecurities onto you. They will label you as cold, distant, or arrogant, simply because your unreadability makes them profoundly uncomfortable. But you must understand this clearly. Their discomfort is the ultimate proof of your burgeoning power. So let your silence accomplish the work that words never could, because a quiet mind is a truly dangerous weapon. It hears everything, it forgets nothing, and it waits with the emotionless patience of a predator. It is in this profound silence, so deep that even chaos cannot penetrate it, that real strength is truly born. The very moment you embark on the quest for external validation, you willingly hand over the keys to your own freedom. Approval is nothing more than a leash cleverly disguised as praise, and the more you desperately crave it, the more effortlessly you can be controlled. The vast majority of people live their entire lives without ever realizing that their choices are almost entirely constructed around the opinions of others, from the way they dress and speak, to their mannerisms, and even to the very dreams they dare to entertain. When you live in such a manner, you are no longer living for yourself. You are merely performing for an audience that, in truth, is largely indifferent to your existence. A great thinker once observed that human beings are primarily driven by two fundamental impulses: the desire for love or the experience of fear. The masses instinctively chase love because it offers a comforting sense of safety and belonging. The powerful, however, learn to embrace the utility of fear, because it is fear that commands unwavering respect. The act of seeking approval renders you predictable, and predictability is the sworn enemy of power. You begin to unconsciously mold yourself into the person you believe others expect you to be, constantly editing and censoring your authentic self to ensure it fits comfortably within their expectations. With every such compromise, a piece of your genuine essence withers and dies. True power begins the moment you stop feeling the need to explain yourself, the moment you cease to seek permission to exist exactly as you are. Approval is a complete illusion. Paradoxically, people grant their deepest respect to those who do not actively seek it. When you move through the world with a clear sense of purpose and an unshakable certainty in your own worth, people are naturally drawn to your orbit. This is because authentic confidence, the kind that requires no external validation, is an exceedingly rare and captivating quality. Humans are intrinsically wired to follow and admire that which they cannot easily influence. Consequently, the individual who is utterly unconcerned with being liked inevitably becomes the very person everyone else desperately wants to impress. This is the great paradox of power. The less you chase approval, the more it relentlessly follows you. To achieve mastery over this dynamic, you must cultivate the art of detachment. Detach your self-worth from praise. Detach your spirit from criticism. Detach your ego from the incessant need to be seen and acknowledged. The Machiavellian mind understands with perfect clarity that being liked is a temporary and conditional state, whereas being respected is an eternal one. Respect is born from the establishment of firm boundaries, from the unwavering ability to say no without offering an apology or an explanation. When you no longer fear the sting of disapproval, you become completely immune to manipulation. Be warned, people will test your newfound resolve. They will strategically withhold their validation. They will question your decisions, and they will try to sow seeds of doubt within your mind. This is their method of measuring your strength. The majority of individuals crumble under the weight of this silent treatment because they mistakenly interpret a lack of approval as outright rejection. The wise one, however, knows that rejection is not an endpoint, but merely a redirection, a course correction toward a position of greater power. When you finally cease your chase for acceptance, you begin to attract it effortlessly. You become a magnetic force, not because you are actively seeking attention, but precisely because you no longer need it. People are irresistibly drawn to that which they cannot fully comprehend, and a state of complete detachment is the deepest and most compelling mystery of all. It radiates an aura of absolute control, profound self-respect, and quiet dominance. From that point forward, everything in your life begins to change. Your conversations, your relationships, and the opportunities that present themselves to you. This is because when you can stand entirely on your own, without seeking validation from any external source, the world itself will bend to acknowledge your presence. Your independence becomes your throne, so cease your efforts to prove your worth and to please the crowd. Let others engage in the futile chase for your approval instead. True authority is never given by others. It is claimed by the one who no longer asks for it. Confidence can be skillfully faked, but genuine composure cannot. Any individual can learn to puff out their chest, speak in a booming voice, and project an outward image of fearlessness. However, the moment real, tangible pressure is applied, that carefully constructed mask inevitably cracks and falls away. Composure, on the other hand, is the quiet, unshakable authority that never fades, no matter how intensely the storms of life may rage. It is the kind of powerful presence that can silence an entire room without the need for a single spoken word. When you walk through the world with true composure, you feel no need to prove anything to anyone. Your energy, your very essence, speaks with a volume that no loud declaration could ever match. A master of strategy once advised that it is beneficial to appear merciful, faithful, humane, and upright, but to possess the inner capacity to become the opposite when fortune and circumstances demand it. This is the very essence of composure. The ability to adapt to any situation without being swayed by emotion, to remain perfectly balanced while everyone else swings wildly between extremes. The world tends to worship confidence because it is visible and often theatrical, but it is composure that is truly feared because it is unshakable. A confident man actively seeks attention. A composed man already commands it by his very nature. When others descend into arguments, he listens with patient observation. When they rush forward with impulsive energy, he deliberately slows his pace. When the environment itself attempts to provoke a reaction from him, he remains profoundly unmoved. It is in these moments that people begin to realize he is different. They feel the weight of his control. They sense the depth of his character. He does not rise to every challenge or bait, because he knows that reacting is tantamount to surrendering his control to the forces of chaos. The composed man studies the entire battlefield while others exhaust themselves in pointless skirmishes. His calm becomes a weapon, far sharper and more effective than any form of overt aggression. This is because the person who maintains their internal equilibrium under external duress commands a unique blend of reverence and trepidation from all who witness it. It is precisely this potent combination of respect and fear that crystallizes into authentic, undeniable power. You must never permit the surrounding turmoil to set the tone of your inner world, and you must never allow the cacophony of the masses to rattle you at your core. Once you have attained true mastery over your own composure, You do not merely control yourself. You seize command of the entire environment. The room, the negotiation, the conflict. It all bends to the silent, gravitational pull of your stillness. This is the ultimate expression of authority, a quiet dominion that is felt rather than announced. It is the understanding that your unshakable calm is not a passive state, but an active force, a subtle pressure you exert on reality itself, compelling it to conform to your will. The world instinctively yields to the individual who demonstrates that they cannot be moved. For in a reality defined by constant flux, the unmovable object is king. This serenity becomes your scepter, your crown, and your fortress all at once. It is the source from which all your influence flows, turning you from a mere participant in life's events into a silent arbiter of their outcomes. The power derived from this state is absolute because it is self-generated and self-sustained, independent of external validation or circumstance. It is the final signature of a mind that has transcended the chaos and become its master. You are not meant to become a lifeless automaton, devoid of all feeling. You are meant to become a masterful enigma, entirely unreadable to the outside world. The most formidable individuals who have ever walked this earth feel everything with an excruciating intensity. They experience the sting of betrayal, the weight of disappointment, and the searing heat of rage more profoundly than most. However, they never grant the world the privilege of witnessing this inner tempest. Instead, they become alchemists of the soul, transmuting the raw, volatile lead of emotion into the refined gold of strategic intelligence. Every pang of feeling becomes a source of fuel, powering their ambition and resolve. Every scar left by adversity is not a mark of damage, but a meticulously drawn line on a strategic map. This is because the moment you reveal your emotions to the wrong pair of eyes, you are handing over the very keys that can be used to manipulate and control you. As a wise observer of power once noted, one should never attempt to win by overt force what can be more elegantly won through calculated deception. This same principle applies directly to your emotional landscape. You do not achieve victory by baring your soul and exposing its contents for all to see. You achieve victory by mastering its powerful currents from within. The common person tragically confuses emotional expression with genuine strength. They operate under the delusion that venting every feeling, no matter how fleeting or destructive, makes them authentic. The stark reality, however, is that the world does not reward such emotional transparency. It ruthlessly exploits it. The more that others know precisely what affects you, the more easily they can use that knowledge as a weapon against you. The instant someone learns what triggers your anger, what sparks your anxiety, or what drives you to desperation, they have effectively drafted a complete blueprint of your psychological weaknesses. The inferior intellect is defined by its reactions. The superior intellect is defined by its understanding. Every impulsive response you make is an unwitting confession. The moment you lash out without thought, you reveal exactly what holds power over you. Minds that lack discipline are slaves to their emotional states, perpetually dragged about by the chains of anger, jealousy, or fear. They react because they are devoid of any inner structure, any internal fortress to which they can retreat. For them, the silence between a provocation and a response is an unbearable void they must rush to fill. A truly powerful mind, however, does not hurry to respond. It pauses, it studies, it interprets, it understands. It possesses the clarity to see beyond the superficial surface of any situation, perceiving the hidden currents and underlying motives that drive events. A masterful strategist noted that a ruler is never short of legitimate reasons to break his word, meaning that the wise do not act from the temporary heat of emotion, but from the cold, hard logic of reason. They skillfully bend situations to their advantage because they achieve a state of complete understanding before they make a single move. The fool reacts instantly, broadcasting his intentions and vulnerabilities to the entire world. The strategist, by contrast, observes in silence, learning how to turn every attack into a strategic advantage. Understanding is the ultimate form of power because it grants you the gift of choice. Reaction is the ultimate form of slavery because it grants others control over you. When you react, your enemies are leading the dance. When you understand, you are the one leading them, often toward a trap of your own design. The modern world is an engine designed to condition people to react instantly. Social media, endless arguments, constant competition. It is a relentless barrage of noise pushing you to answer, defend, and explain. But this is the very process by which the weak expose their own insecurities. The moment you cease to explain yourself, You step into a realm of genuine authority. Individuals who feel the constant need to justify their actions are broadcasting their own uncertainty, and uncertainty is an open invitation for others to exert control. The more you explain, the more you dilute your own position, because every explanation is, at its core, an apology disguised as reasoning. It is a subtle admission that your actions cannot stand on their own merit and require verbal support. It is far better to be feared than to be loved if you cannot be both. This fear does not arise from loud threats or aggressive words. It arises from an aura of mystery. When people cannot fully read your motives or predict your next move, they begin to afford you respect out of a primal sense of caution. When you explain every move you make, however, you become transparent, and transparency is the death of power. The Machiavellian intellect understands that silence itself creates a hierarchy. When you speak less, your words, when finally uttered, land with far greater weight. When you explain less, your actions create a much deeper impact. The truly powerful do not squander their energy trying to prove their worth to an indifferent audience. They allow their results to speak for them with a brutal and undeniable clarity. Every explanation you offer invites a debate, and debate is a trap designed to pull you down from the high ground of detached action into the muddy trenches of emotional territory. The wise warrior never enters that battlefield. They simply state their position, act with decisiveness, and move on. The strong know that their decisions do not require the approval of others, and their resolute silence in the aftermath of a judgment terrifies those who expect and crave a justification. You must come to understand that people do not truly want the truth. They want comfort. When you start explaining, you are attempting to comfort them, and in doing so, you lower yourself to their level. When you remain silent, you force them to sit with the discomfort of uncertainty, and that very uncertainty becomes the wellspring of your power. You now understand what forges a person into someone who is truly unbreakable. It is not a matter of physical might, nor is it found in loud performative confidence or the constant expression of every passing feeling. It is, in its purest form, a matter of control. The one who can remain perfectly calm when everything around them is collapsing into chaos, who can maintain a profound silence while others are screaming, who no longer feels the need to explain, react, or chase. That is the individual whom the world cannot defeat. A sage of power once remarked that a promise given was a necessity of the past, while a word broken is a necessity of the present. This means that the powerful move with an unwavering sense of reason, not fleeting emotion. They adapt, they evolve, and they remain unshaken no matter how many times the landscape of their life changes around them. You must now endeavor to become that person, calm, cool-headed, and fundamentally untouchable. The storms of life will not cease their coming, but they will cease to move you. People will continue to test your boundaries, but they will no longer hold any control over you. This is because when your emotions belong entirely to you and not to the whims of the world, you become a master of yourself. And self-mastery is, and always will be, the highest and most absolute form of power. From this moment forward, abandon all attempts to prove anything. Do not stoop to defend yourself. Do not chase after recognition. Let your silence command respect. Let your focused energy speak far more eloquently than your words ever could. And when people inevitably wonder how you manage to stay so serene while everything around them seems to be burning, simply allow a knowing smile to grace your lips. That is the one thing they will never understand. Your calmness is not a passive quest for peace. It is an active state of domination over your own mind. You are no longer the victim of the storm. You are its unshakable silent center.